What's up, my friends? Welcome to the Health Breakdown, episode number 30. My friends, I'm excited to be here with you today. As always, we go through and gain some perspective and have some discussion around some current videos, some not so current videos, but to, again, gain wisdom, gain perspective, and really gain truth as to what we can pull and utilize within our own lives to optimize our health and our wellness, our energy, and our longevity. So, my friends, let's get right into it. I'm excited for today. I have 10 videos today. Cover a pretty wide variety of different topics and categories. But my friends, let's get into it.
It was never about feeding the world. It started with seeds and the power to control them. In the 80s, corporations began patenting life, not by creating it, but by tweaking seeds nature had already made and calling them their own. Then came the pitch: higher yields, fewer pests, simpler farming, and for struggling farmers, that sounded like salvation. But here's the catch: the seeds were patented. You couldn't save them from one harvest to the next. You had to buy them again every season. That was never the case before. For thousands of years, seeds were passed down, replanted, improved. They belonged to the land and to the people who worked it. And now, well, most farmers can't even plant without signing a contract. 4 companies control over 60% of the world's seeds. In some vegetables, 95%. And the pesticide? Only their seed survives it. So you buy the chemical too, from the same company. If farmers step outside the system, they risk losing their harvest. If they break the rules, they risk getting sued. That's not support, that's a trap. And what do we end up with? Farmers that are stuck, biodiversity collapsing, and food that's made in labs instead of grown in soil. This was never about helping farmers. It was about replacing them.
My friends, this is, to me, one of the biggest things that we need to change in regards to how we get food, right? Farming, my friends, is step one. Like that has to be tremendous. That has to be healthy, right? That has to be natural. That has to be nutrient rich, right? We have to start in this whole dynamic, and it's big, it's deep, and it starts with our soil. It starts with our seeds, right? We've outsourced so much. We've given away so much of our power. We're relying on essentially criminal organizations, for lack of a better description. Again, that's my perspective on a lot of that monopoly, what you just saw there, owning 95% of vegetable seeds, right? And, you know, it's unfortunate that farmers have to take these kind of deals, but we need a new way of farming. We need a new way of capturing our seeds and owning that, those properties, right? And not having to rely on purchasing seeds from a company. Like what that comes from nature. What are we doing? And then the pesticides that we spray, the horrific nutrient depleted soil that we're growing our food in, it's a system that is, again, built on sticks, if you will. It's not good. It's not strong. And everything in regards to our health starts with the farmer, starts with the food, starts with the soil, starts with the harvest. And we have just completely corrupted that whole process. It's such a broken system. And if we intend on elevating the health of humanity, that is the focal point. That is the number one area to begin reworking this entire dynamic. And again, I've done farming, but not at that scale, not at that level. But my friends, that is a big deal. That is a really big deal. And I know I saw a podcast with Kyrie Irving, who is amazing, in my opinion. And again, he is intending to be a big farmer, right? And to bring food to consumer directly, and to just reinvigorate and redo this entire farming system that is, again, supplying food that is not nutrient rich, covered in pesticides. And again, the whole system is broken. But won't continue to go on there, but that is a point that is really concerning to me. That is something that, and again, I don't fear very much, my friends. I really don't. But that is an area that if we don't fix, our health optimization will only be limited. And so, again, for you farmers out there, or folks that are growing food, or folks that have farms, even if you have a backyard area where you're growing food, you are doing such an amazing thing. And again, I think that over the next 10 years, this is really where a lot of focus needs to be put. And whoever can do their part, God bless you, step up, do your thing, and help humanity. So again, we got to have the seeds, though. We have to have the right seeds. Like we, the people, need to have them, not rely on some company or corporation to be providing them to you. That is way outsourced. So, an area of concern, but we change that game. Oh man, the sky's the limit. So again, a lot of upside there, but a heavy mountain to climb. But we've seen tremendous progress that has been made in the past months, X months, 6 months, whatever it's been, in regards to removing harmful foods and chemicals within our foods, and the whole, Make America Healthy Again movement. But this has to be on the list, my friends. This is big. That's big.
Have a smile on your face when you're walking barefoot in the sand. Yeah.
Mark, what's your take on grounding, as we walk through the water?
Yeah, I love the concept of grounding. I think it's a real thing. I think it's one of the reasons that we immediately feel good when we take our shoes off and put it on a natural surface. The challenge as a footwear manufacturer is to find a material that conducts through the ground to the foot and also has, wear-resistant properties. So metal is a great conductor, but you can't put metal in a shoe appropriately. We talked about infusing it with wires, copper wires, but again, the wires, when they wear down, you're going to tear up your carpet when you get home, So we're still looking at that because I think grounding is a real thing, and I'm very interested in pursuing that. In the meantime, our biggest challenge is educating the population on the importance of foot health and toe articulation, and the idea that the toes are supposed to move independently according to the surface of the ground that you're walking on. And by wearing regular shoes that kind of wrap the toes and bind the toes together, you lose that articulation. It's compromising not just your foot health, but compromising your overall health and that entire kinetic chain that depends on your contact with earth and your toe articulation. Like if you were to sprint down the beach right now and you went back and look at your footprints, your feet would be at the widest when you push off on that sprint. If you go back and look at you'll see that your feet would have splayed outwardly on the sprint in a dramatic fashion. Now think, okay, now when I sprint or run with regular shoes on, I don't get that splay. What is that doing to the rest of my body? What is that doing to all of the connections from the big toe all the way up through the neck?
My friends, this is big. This is big. Understanding the proper foot mechanics and shoes, right? Your typical Nike shoe or, your typical running shoe is, jamming your toes up front. It's condensing them. It's squeezing them. And your natural foot, range, trajectory, and positioning should be wide, just like your hands, right? Wide. And so I wear Vivo barefoot shoes, which are phenomenal. But otherwise I don't wear shoes, right? Regardless, grounding, we know the amazing benefits. Mark is the owner of Primal Kitchen, who makes the dressings and some foods, for food products, I should say. But he's super into health. That's one of the healthiest 70-year-olds that I've come across, right? This man runs, he jogs, he lifts, he bikes, he does all things. So very, very, very connected and into health. And I guess he manufactures shoes as well. So I like where he's going with this. But the biggest thing though is the connection to proper foot dynamics and the overall health of what that conveys to the rest of the body. I played sports and had some knee surgeries, but one of the worst injuries that I had was a broken toe. And I say worst, not in like painful or anything like that, but longest lingering injury to me that is in my face every day. And it's something that I have to continue to work with. I broke the big bone on my big toe, my right toe. And so I've been walking weird for years, but grounding has helped me tremendously. The wide foot shoes have helped tremendously. And just, again, efficient movement patterns with the foot and the ankle and the knee and the hip and the whole nine. So this is big. And if you guys are not aware of how your foot should be within shoes and how you should be walking, my friends, pay attention. Pay attention, dig deep, understand proper foot mechanics and healthy footwear for your everyday movement. It's massive. It's super, super important, my friends. So again, just really like that. And the conveyance of that message about your feet, right? We shouldn't be jammed up. We shouldn't be all squeezed in our shoes. Not good, not good.
Makes vaccines different was vaccines is truly the God complex. We can make you stronger. We can make you a Superman that will not be affected by viruses. We're going to beat nature now. We're going to beat God, which is, you even in some of the interviews you see of Stanley Plotkin, of Paul Offit, they allude to this. They allude to the accepted casualty that's happening when they finally admit there's injury from vaccine. Well, yeah, but that's an accepted casualty of our war against nature. And it really, what you see is this desire for medicine to be godlike, and that's where it asserts itself. You're not allowed to challenge me. Is that true about all the science?
You know, godlike and also warlike. A lot of what you just said is also humans going to war. There was actually, I think, broad acceptance that the COVID vaccines have done great harm. But the contention was it saved lives. It saved lives. And so there's this thought among vaccinologists that there will be a collateral damage. There will be a cost for the betterment of society, and we just must accept that. So the question on the table, the ethical and moral dilemma that we find ourselves in, a perfectly healthy person, should they be sacrificed at the altar of the vaccines?
Friends, I got two things with this one here. The first is that for any man, human, to believe that they are going to outdo God or outdo the Creator, I mean, that is straight delusion. And kind of in connection with that, we're not fighting nature. Right? We're not fighting nature. Nature is something to be harmonious with. Nature is an ally, right? Nature is something to live together with, not nature or us, right? It's not humans versus nature. That's a weird perspective. We should live in harmonious relationship with nature, right? We don't need to destroy everything because it's either us or nature. We live within nature. Nature is all around us. We are a micro piece of nature, right? So we're not going to outdo God, and we're not going to destroy nature in order to live. That's so out of connection. It's ridiculous. And the casualty dynamic is, again, absurd. So we are essentially, the response to the problem is worse than the problem, and then we're just going to have some casualties because of it. Why have the middleman there? What is the need for the middleman to come in, make the situation worse, and then cause casualties in the process? Why don't we skip that whole process? Why don't we just stay with nature? Why don't we just learn to work in a harmonious relationship and realize that we're not combating nature, we're balancing it. We're trying to harmonize. We're trying to deal with virals or bacterias in a natural way. We don't need to bring in a man-made concoction, believing it's better than God, a man-made concoction that is against nature, and then a man-made concoction that, a bunch of you guys are going to die along the way, but hey, it's the only option we have in order to combat nature. I mean, that's crazy. That is literally nuts. And so, my friends, mindset, perception, perspective about what really is, right? We are all God's creatures at the end of the day. So let's learn to live with nature and God's creatures, not bring in a solution better than God, destroying nature, and it'll kill you too, but that's just the price that we got to pay. That's ridiculous. Insane. Whew. Really? Like this, right? Man. All right. I'm going to keep myself composed here.
Three major categories of injury. We have the allergic, which is your eczema, your allergies, your asthma. We have neurodevelopment, so language, speech, behavior issues, autism, ADD, ADHD, that aren't recognized as connected to vaccines. There was no ADD or ADHD in the unvaxxed.
That's amazing.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
I was at a major autism conference with over 1,000 attendants, and there was a panel of experts. This was back in the early 2000s. The question was to this panel, and all 8 of them went down and said the same thing. The question was, is ADD and ADHD just on the mild end of the autism spectrum? And every single one of them said yes.
Amazing.
So when you know now that in the United States, ADHD is probably 1 in 6, 1 in 10,
Yeah.
1 in 8, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And that's the mild end. It's basically we're doing something to our children that is messing with their brains. And how badly it messes with their brains and exactly where it messes with that, whether it's actual toxic effect, whether it's immune activation, whether it's just massive inflammation, and we now have documented so many mechanisms of how this happens and why it happens. It's just a matter of degree. We are destroying our children's brains and their future. And vaccine's a big part of it. But the third category that was very clear in my data is infections. So we had increased ear infections, lung infections, sinus infections, eye infections, skin infections, GI infections, infections of all kinds combined. About 400%, 300 to 400% more.
4 times the rate of overall just
In
infections.
the vaccinated, and these weren't even CDC vaccinated. These are
Like lightly vaccinated.
lightly vaccinated compared to
So
unvaccinated.
God knows. Everyone is sick. Their kids are all sick.
They're sick, but they're being told by their pediatrician it's not the vaccines.
Whew. All right. So, my friends, this man, if you remember, did this study within his practice of all of his patients. And it's hard to see here because we're, on the vertical piece, but the blue line is the unvaccinated. The red line is the vaccinated. And so there are more issues, right? More doctor's visits, more symptomology, more disease or diagnosis on every one of these individual pieces compared to the unvaccinated folks. So here's a micro study, if you will, of folks who are not vaccinated, and then, as he mentioned, lightly vaccinated. So not even the whole 90 doses of vaccines from the CDC, their recommended schedule. And in every instance, symptomology, side effects, conditions are worse in the vaccinated compared to the unvaccinated. And again, when this man did this study, and he posted this or published this, his license was removed within days. So we've always asked for, hey, it'd be amazing if you did a study that showed vaccinated health versus unvaccinated health. And we got to see the data. Well, they don't want to do that, but this doctor did. And this is what he found. And this is exactly in line with my perspective and many naturopath perspective that are out there. We understand that injected immunity is a terrible decision and a worse outcome for health. Now, again, we've all kind of been in the situation of believing, or at least most of us have, believing and not challenging that vaccinated immunity that's the way to go. You don't even question it, right? That's what we got to do. That's what we were told. That's what we were taught. That's what we've been restricted to. But in the age of information, it is coming to fruition. And we are seeing the truth. The truth always rises to the top. And we are seeing it blatantly, obviously clear that that information is not accurate. That information is not true. And it's so funny that so much of what we assume to be true and that we never challenge ends up actually not being true. And this is one of those things. This is why I am a adamant opponent of vaccines. I just have not seen the benefit. I have not seen why that trade is worth it in any way, shape, or form. And now more than ever, you're seeing educated folks, good doctors, and health conscious individuals recognizing that that is not the right choice. And so again, if you have been vaccinated, if your children have been vaccinated, the only true solution is detoxification. We have to eliminate. We have to clean out the system within the body. We have to eliminate the heavy metals. We have to eliminate any toxins that have been stored or left in the body through vaccination. So again, my friends, don't panic, but just do not look towards a needle and injected immunity to be superior than the natural immunity that your body already has and that you've been given for a reason, right? But that study is one of the most monumental studies that has ever been done. It is so clear. It is so, again, exacting and obvious. And again, just want you to digest that, absorb that, dig deep on that, and continue to dig and again, educate yourself around vaccines, my friends.
Why is it that any company that sells an herb or naturally occurring supplement is not allowed to tell you that it can do anything like treat or cure or prevent any disease? Well, it turns out that's the result of a collusion between the big drug companies and our federal regulatory agencies like the FDA and the FTC. And that's really ironic because all of those big drug companies got their start by selling the same herbal remedies that they are censoring now. You take the biggest one on earth, Merck. It started by selling purely plant-based remedies and tinctures. Pfizer, guess what they sold? Anti-parasitic derived from the Artemisia plant. Nowadays, you can't say anything about the top-selling drugs from both those same companies. You can't say that they have natural alternatives. Lovastatin, for instance, Mevacor from Merck. There's a natural alternative to that called red yeast rice. It has the same compound as lovastatin. You're not allowed to say that it lowers cholesterol. What's the bottom line? Plants were there before the drugs. They are more likely to be safe because they are naturally occurring. Many of the herbs that we use as alternative to drugs have a much better safety record and have been used for a much longer period of time.
Friends, herbs, natural healing, fasting, right, has been around for literally centuries. And what, about 300 years ago, 200 years ago, the allopathic remedies came to life. And this is kind of from Dr. Morse's page, right? When we use their language, when we use the term disease, they essentially want to own that term so that they can own the other words. See, it's a word play, right? But they want to own the diseases. They want to own all of them. And so when you play the disease game, then you play in their field. And again, diseases are a set of circumstances, right? They are a byproduct. They are a cellular dynamic, right? I don't use the term disease. I don't like to use the term disease management, right? Or diseases, because the allopathic modality is to treat diseases. So when you just, again, my point is to not get involved in their game. It's to stay away from it. It's to disconnect from it and to use natural remedies that have no side effects or minimal side effects. Whereas you're playing in the prescription medicine game of tons of side effects and then getting more prescriptions for those side effects. So it's a nasty game. It's a nasty game. I mean, they want to own like cold and flu, right? These are just natural responses by the body. At the end of the day, we don't need to get ourselves entangled into this system. In fact, we need to disconnect from it. Personally, my experience was the moment that I disconnected myself from the system, everything got better. Things started to become clear to me. I played a very basic game of health. Did not go to doctor. I haven't been to a doctor in 10, 12 years. I don't even know. For what? Right? For what? To me, the allopathic solutions should reside in trauma, first aid kind of a deal, immediate needs, right? And surgeries, right? So I break my arm, right? My arm is now going this way. I need immediate surgery, right? Okay, cool. Put me back together. Great. Or my heart stops. Great. I'm going to need something immediately. I'm going to need something now. Emergency, first aid kind of a deal, right? And if you allow them to focus in those areas, great. They can play the role. But to start coming over here and doing all this and, oh, we need to see if you have cancer, because then you're hooked into the system, got to do the test. We got to remove that. We got to cut it out. And then you just get entangled and you get pulled in to the whole system. How are we spending trillions of dollars, but we're unhealthy? In fact, we're the most unhealthy we've ever been. We're the sickest country of all. That it doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense. So something's broken. But again, there is great people in the healthcare system, in the medical system, but the system itself, to me, is very broken. Very broken. Use natural remedies, my friends. Use the herbs. They've been around forever. All right.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary. Let me ask you something. Should doctors make decisions based upon what's best for their patients or based upon what makes them the most money? It's not a tough question, but we've inherited a healthcare system that constantly pushes doctors toward the latter. It rewards certain treatments not because they're better for the patient, but because someone profits. Take what happened during COVID. Hospitals were paid to report staff vaccination rates. Those numbers were fed into the National Healthcare Safety Network, then published on the CDC website to shame any hospital that refused to become an enforcer of federal vaccine mandates. Today, I'm proud to announce we've eliminated that policy by repealing a dangerous Biden-era provision in the CMS inpatient payment rule. And we're not stopping there. We're scanning every corner of the healthcare system for hidden incentives that corrupt medical judgment. What we're finding is alarming. Doctors are being paid to vaccinate, not to evaluate. They're pressured to follow the money, not the science. We've recently uncovered that more than 36,000 doctors had their Medicare reimbursements altered based upon childhood vaccination rates. That's not medicine. That's coercion. It's immoral. It has no place in a constitutional democracy or in a system that claims to protect children. Medical decisions should be made based upon one thing and one thing only: the well-being of the patient, never on a financial bonus or a government mandate. Patients deserve honest, uncorrupted advice from their doctors. Doctors deserve the freedom to use their training and to follow the science and speak the truth without fear of punishment. Doctors should be guided by medical judgment and their Hippocratic oath, not by financial incentives or government mandates. That's what this policy change is about, and it's just the beginning. Thank you very much.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Friends, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. We grow up believing that this system is there to help us. And again, there are individuals within this system that are good people that want to help. But we are making decisions based off financial incentives rather than your well-being. That's our healthcare system. It's actually like the financial care health system, right? Like that's so ass backwards. That is so messed up that regardless of what's going to get you the best health outcome, we're going to fit you along this, feeder system, put you in line, send you down the path according to what's going to pay me the most, regardless of your health. Oh, yep. Side effects, death, maybe. But hey, I'm getting paid based on if you're vaccinated. I'm getting paid based on what financially is going to benefit me. Your health is secondary, maybe even third. We'll get to it. Don't worry. We'll get to your health in a bit here. I need to get paid first. Okay. And yeah, I mean, this is insane, my friends. This is a broken system. This is why I disconnected from this system a decade ago. And that fires me up. That fires me up. You have to be infuriated. We have been experimental guinea pigs. And the sickest part about it is that our kids are the guinea pigs. Our kids don't go to doctors. We don't do that. We don't play the vaccine game so that you can get paid, right? During COVID, vaccine rates. That's why everybody's right. You have your COVID shot, you have your COVID shot, right? And the respirator dynamics. I won't even get into all that, but it's financially based. And then health. That's wrong. That is broken, bad, and it needs to change. Yep. Yeah. It's a mess. It's a mess. And so you can't trust the system like that. You have to take ownership of your health. You must be your own health operator. Period. You can't outsource your life. You can't outsource your health. You can talk to people, have discussions, go get an opinion, go see a doctor, go see what he says. But they rope you in. They pull you in. And so again, I won't get into really where the root of so much of this takes place, my friends. For those of you that don't know, we lost my mother-in-law to cancer about 14 years ago. And we got sucked in. We got sucked in. And we believed that, yep, do this and you'll be good, do that and you'll be good. But it was blind trust. It was take the wheel, guy in the white coat. And then when the outcome came back, sorry, basically, didn't work. Sucks for you. I don't deal well with people playing with our lives. I don't deal well with loved ones just being a number, right? To the vaccine game. Yeah, some of us are going to die. Some of, just is what it is. it really fires me up, my friends. And this to me, again, is a good versus evil thing. And I can't just stay quiet about it, because we're playing with people's lives, and we're playing with our children's lives, and we're playing in a system that is financially based. Yet we're as unhealthy as we've ever been. Autism rates through the roof, ADD rates through the roof. So something isn't working. Something needs to change. And that change is what I suggested earlier in disconnecting from that system. Whew. Yeah. I appreciate you, my friends. I appreciate you. This is why I do this, is because a life was taken from us, from my family, from me, from my wife, and it didn't need to be. It didn't need to be like that. And now I have to make a difference, and I have to help others understand the truth so that they don't lose loved ones as well, or their own lives. And so that's why I'm so adamant about this stuff. That's why I get irritated. That's why I have a little fire in me about this stuff, is because people are playing with people's lives, and it's just not cool at all. So I'm sure probably every single one of you that is tuning in or that is catching this replay has lost someone to a disease or a sickness or an illness, or actually a treatment of one of those. And we got to reclaim that. It can't be in vain. We can't lose our loved ones in vain and not make any changes or adjustments or change the whole system or disconnect from the whole system. So again, I'll just kind of stop there. But my friends, this is my passion. I don't know you, but I love you. I want the best for you. I don't want to see you lose your life, or a loved one, or your child to be maimed because of a vaccine, because of mercury or aluminum. That's ridiculous. All right. Sorry, man. I get fired up. I get fired up. Usually pretty calm though. But this stuff, that's a whole nother game.
School shooting in Minneapolis. The shooter opened fire into a Catholic church.
The gunman then turned the gun on themselves.
Just a heartbreaking day.
Just a horrible situation there, and one that is just becoming all too common. We need transparency in science. We need transparency in news, and we've got to stop living in a world where there's parts of these conversations you're not allowed to have because there's some special interest group. Number one, I think the fact that this isn't the first time we've seen a transgender person being involved in one of these shootings. And I'm not saying anything about people being transgender. I know we're all God's children, but it's what's happening physically there. Questions I think we need to ask is, was there any sort of puberty-blocking drugs involved? Were the hormones being changed? What happens if you start manipulating the science and chemistry of a child's body? Does it affect the psychology? Was there SSRIs involved? Was there any psychological drugs being taken by this child? We've got to say, look, put it all on the table. Everyone wants to complain about the guns in our society, but it's time to have a conversation about why are our kids so incredibly depressed and so incredibly violent in these situations. And that's something we've been talking about a lot, and it's the third rail, and you shouldn't be going near it, and how could you blame drugs or want to talk about the psychology of children? Ridiculous. Hogwash. We're putting it all on the table.
Yeah. My friends, we have to talk about this stuff, right? We can each have a difference of opinions, but we have to get to the bottom of it. And if you notice that these school shootings are horrific, tragedy, and you have the dynamic of these drugs, right? If I'm going to remove my manly parts and then go on drugs and then have these mind-altering chemicals within these drugs, what kind of dynamic is being created? There is a solid set of data, right? That all of these school shootings are, most of them, a big number, through transgender individuals. And again, exactly what Del said. We're all God's children. I have nothing against a transgender individual. They're a person of God. Great. I love you. But when you start to include these psychological drugs, bad outcomes begin to happen. And this needs to be examined. This needs to be talked about. This needs to be investigated, dug deep to understand what are the consequences of these drugs. Again, drugs. We're back to prescription medications causing unimaginable harm, not only to the individual, but to society, to the environment, to other people. And again, just not a good combination whatsoever, my friends. Not a good combination. And I'm glad Del spoke about it, because Del's the man.
Let me ask you, why are we breathing in aluminum powder and strontium nitrate? Well, that's a very good question. And the answer comes from a surprising place, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, who is over another agency called NIOSH, or the National Institutes of Occupational Safety and Health. And in 2006, they put out a safety report on a company named MK Ballistics, who make cloud seeding flares. So in other words, these are things that are dropped out of a plane. They're incendiary devices, and they spread metallic particles into the sky in order to form clouds and bring about desired or manipulated weather conditions. And according to this report, their cloud seeding flares contain a variety of metals with various toxicities. And this includes strontium nitrate, potassium perchlorate, silver iodide, aluminum powder, magnesium powder, and also polyester resin and styrene. Now, we can certainly look at the danger of all of these compounds, but for example, if we go to the PubChem website and look up simply one of them, strontium nitrate, we can see that it has some pretty serious toxicity. And this includes that it can cause methemoglobinemia, which is a life-threatening condition where your hemoglobin in your blood cannot bind oxygen. And it can cause a lack of oxygen in your tissues, which can cause organ damage and even death. Now, it also is characterized as a probable carcinogen, and it causes pregnancy complications and developmental birth defects. So, do you want to be breathing in this material? Then what gives these companies the right, with government oversight, to spray this material into the air that we breathe?
Hold on one second. I'm on. My friends, again, I don't know who gives, the individuals the right to drop these heavy metal, toxic chemical concoctions into the sky that cause, infertility, birth defects, life-threatening conditions. How or where, how did we get here, right? How did we be okay with this dynamic? How is it allowed that heavy metals are just allowed to be dispersed and dropped with no ramifications, even though there's health effects? This is kind of what bothers me about the 5G dynamics. Even though there's blatant health effects, we're just moving forward with it. We're just cruising at 100 miles an hour, regardless of the sacrificial lamb that we become, regardless of any health side effects, casualties of war, so to speak. Just is what it is, right? And I'm telling you, my friends, that again, cloud seeding, chemtrails, all that is extremely detrimental to our health. You have farmers that are noticing a large portion, if not all, of their crops being wiped out or being hit heavily with, they don't know what it is that is causing it, but they notice that when there's the spraying and at certain times, their crops are getting hit hard. And to me, it's blatantly obvious, but I just don't know how it's okay. I don't know how that is legal. I don't know how that, again, that happens, but maybe some of you do. Maybe some of you are politically more savvy than I am or than others are, about bills being passed, about, government contracts. I don't know, but whatever we need to do to figure this out, to stop this, that would be the greatest thing that could happen. We cannot continue to spray metals in the sky and just, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine, guys. There has to be some kind of limits or laws or legality around this dynamic. But again, what was once a conspiracy is beyond truth at this point. And so we need to, again, question the things that are labeled in any kind of a way, misinformation, conspiracy, whatever it is, because the conspiracy folks are almost batting 1,000 at this point. So again, my friends, continue to dig deep, continue to do what you can in regards to chemtrails and cloud seeding. But yeah, I don't understand how they're allowed to do it. Great question, Angela. I don't know, but that must change, and hopefully it will.
Unfortunate the amount of people who are having trouble with sleep today. Many people today have become mouth breathers. Why? Because their noses are clogged up. Why? You see, there's always a reason. One of the reasons why the nose is clogged up is allergy, breathing in mold, breathing in chemicals or certain foods. And the 5 most common mucus-forming foods are dairy, wheat, oats, peanuts, and refined sugar. Breathing through the nose. The nose was designed for us to breathe in and out of. You see, nose purifies the air, it warms the air, it humidifies the air, it also balances blood gases, and it pressurizes the air, making it perfect for the lungs. Encouraging nose breathing by taping the mouth up when you sleep. So what you can do is you can just tape it from under the nose to the chin, an hour a day, and after you've done that for a week, you can put it on and sleep the whole night, and that will encourage nose breathing. I know people that have stopped the need for their sleep apnea machine by just going over to nose breathing.
Friends, nasal breathing is, again, it reminds me of the feet dynamic, right? Just, again, a natural way of being and of living. And nasal breathing is crucial, but it's so connected to, again, the way that the mouth is shaped, the jaw shape, these kinds of, sleep apnea dynamics, how much oxygen you're getting in your body. We're not supposed to be breathing out of our mouth. It's like you're running up a hill. It's not what we're supposed to. That's not how we're supposed to be breathing. We breathe, 22,000 times a day? We probably should do it well. We should probably do it efficiently, especially because if we don't have oxygen, we're literally dead. So you talk about the most fundamental health or life activity is breathing. And if we're not breathing properly, there's going to be consequences to that. So the tape thing, great thing. I know wrestlers that do it as well, right? Where you tape up. Runners that do it, you tape up. And you breathe out your nose and you breathe in your nose. This is the only way. And for those of you that are mouth breathers or that breathe out of your mouth during sleep, highly suggest that you get some mouth tape. Put it over right there. Or you can even do the whole thing, right? Just like that. There's an amazing thing that happens when you focus on breathing. And this is what I tell, I coach AAU basketball, 8th grade and 5th grade, but I always tell them, and I coach football too, flag football, but I always tell them, right? We're not running around breathing out our mouth. We're not running sprints breathing out of our mouth. We're in our nose, we're out our nose. If we need to, we breathe out of our mouth, but we never breathe in our mouth unless we're literally dying for oxygen. So that will help a lot of folks. And my oldest son, he has begun to tape his mouth because he typically breathes out of his mouth. And I said, buddy, we got to work on that. We have to work on that. And he listened, and he's starting to see some benefits. He's starting to get better sleep. That's another thing too. If you're breathing in and out of your mouth all night, you can't possibly be getting restorative, regenerative sleep. You can't. Your oxygen intake is not efficient. It's not optimal. So again, my friends, it's these little things. These little things make a big difference. But if you think about it, it's really just getting back to the natural way we're supposed to function. That's it. That's really all it is. That to me is naturopathy. You're getting back to the most natural, fundamental, simplistic, again, natural way of living. And breathing through your nose is a prime example. Last one.
Not be Bill Gates' nasty appeal coating, but you still need to wash this stuff off. I'm going to tell you why and how to do it. Whether your apple is organic or conventional, there's a waxy coating on the outside of your apple to make it look better and last longer. If your apple SKU starts with the number 9, this is an organic apple, which means this coating has to be made from natural things. But if that apple SKU starts with the number 3, that coating is synthetic, petroleum-based, and toxic. And there's 2 good reasons why you would want to wash this waxy coating off. In conventional apples, that coating likely contains morphine, which can be carcinogenic and cause other health challenges. And number 2, on both of these apples, it's locking in pesticides, whether they're organic pesticides or synthetic pesticides, onto the apples, and you're going to want to rinse that stuff off before you consume it. So now how do you remove that coating? You need a gallon of water with 4 tablespoons of baking soda. Let it soak for 15 minutes, pull them out and gently scrub them with a vegetable brush, then rinse them off with cold water. This process will not only remove that waxy coating, but most of those pesticide residues as well.
Love it. Love it. My friends, again, we have to be aware of what is being sprayed on our food. But I knew about this apple dynamic, I don't know, a few years ago. But I always why is this so slippery? Why is this slippery? And then you wash it off in baking soda. That, my friend, is the best, in my opinion, and through the data, through the numbers, through the research, through the science. I hate even using that term. But through reality, right, through truth, baking soda is the best produce wash that you can get, and it's the cheapest, right? So it's cost effective and the best. So I always use it. But wash off your produce, fruits or vegetables, okay? Organic or not. Whatever the ratio is that you want to use. I think it's 1 teaspoon per 16 ounces of water. I usually just throw a lot in there. A little bit wasteful, but I'm going to err on the side of more than less. Nonetheless, always wash your produce off with baking soda, okay? It removes, I think, 98% of all of the pesticides and dirt dynamics, not just real dirt. I'm saying the dirty chemicals, the fungicides, the pesticides, and coating. And so once you're done, once you leave it in there for 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, get it out and do exactly what he said, wash it off. Even if it's with your hands, great. But if you have a little scrub brush, do that as well, okay? And that will remove those dynamics. So yes, good, Renee, good. Yes, baking soda, my friend. Yeah. But yeah, my friends, there's all kinds of hidden everything that we're getting sprayed with and bombarded with. But it's cool. You know what? All right, no big deal. Now we know, we have the awareness, and now we handle it. Now we combat it. We don't fear it. We don't run away from it. We don't try to live in a bubble. We just combat it. We grow our strength, right? This phrase has come up a lot lately for me, but in talking to people and in telling people this, but we don't pray for an easy life. We pray for the strength to be able to handle all hardships that come. And so, again, whatever's being thrown at us, we're going to figure it out, and we're going to find a solution to it. We're going to learn how to combat it. We're going to learn how to negate it, and we're going to learn how to handle it, because there's nothing that can stop us. And that's the mentality that we have to have, my friends. We were meant to be healthy. We were not meant to be sick. If you think that you were meant to be diseased or sick or ill or weak or maimed, you really need to rethink that. You really need to change your perspective and your mindset, because we were not. We were meant to be healthy, thriving human beings. And anything that can take that away, we negate it, we combat it, and we find a solution. So, my friends, really appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Again, love to hear your feedback. Love to see your comments on any of these subjects. You know, I don't come here thinking I know everything. I don't think that my way is the only way. I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn every single day. And I think that that is the best perspective when it comes to life and when it comes to health. Again, we could study health every day, all day for the rest of our lives, and we're still not going to know everything. So again, that's why this is about human experience. This is about your trials and tribulations. This is about mine. This is about his and hers and everyone's, so that we can learn. We're learning the truth. We are seeking truth at the end of the day, whatever that means. Whatever that means, I want to know the truth. And at the end of the day, the closer that we get to truth, the closer we get to God, and the closer that we get to our optimized level of health. So, my friends, I love you guys. Again, I will be back here probably Thursday or Friday. But my friends, I love you. Take care. Be safe. Stay healthy, my friends. Again, consistency, progress over perfection. I'll learn new things each and every day, and then combat it. Never fear it. I love you, my friends. I'll see you soon.